Wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. Plato. In a world obsessed with showing strength, status, and wealth, most people miss one of the most powerful strategies in history, the art of being underestimated. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that power does not always belong to the loudest, the richest, or the most intimidating. Often, it belongs to the one who hides their strength, conceals their ambition, and lets others believe they are weak. Why? Because the underestimated person moves freely. Rivals lower their guard. Enemies waste their energy fighting each other, never realizing where the real danger lies. And when the moment of action arrives, the one who was dismissed as insignificant suddenly reveals their true hand. And by then, it's already too late. Today, we will uncover 5 Machiavellian reasons why being underestimated is not a weakness, but one of the greatest forms of leverage you can hold. But be warned, if you don't know how to use this power, it might crush you. Reason 1. The simplicity of a weak appearance. Power often hides best under the cloak of weakness. When others see you as fragile, unthreatening, or incapable, the world simplifies itself before you. Enemies turn their gaze elsewhere, rivals ignore you, and the constant pressure to prove your strength disappears. This is a strategic advantage that Machiavelli would have considered priceless. For the one who looks strong must spend endless energy defending that image, while the one who looks weak enjoys freedom of movement. Think about the burden of power displayed openly. A prince who parades his wealth, his army, or his intellect immediately becomes a target. Every rival measures themselves against him. Every enemy plots his downfall, and every ally secretly wonders when they might seize his throne. His life becomes a cycle of defense, always forced to maintain appearances, always fighting to keep respect intact. Machiavelli warns us that the powerful man who reveals too much creates more enemies than friends. By contrast, the man who is underestimated generates no such resistance. He walks quietly, while others exhaust themselves on the battlefield of appearances. To appear weak is to remove yourself from unnecessary conflict. It simplifies the game of power by lowering the expectations placed upon you. When people believe you cannot compete with them, they do not guard against you. They speak freely in your presence. They reveal plans they would never confess to a rival, and they underestimate the reach of your influence. Information flows toward the one who looks harmless, because nobody fears betrayal from someone they consider insignificant. This is simplicity at its finest. The world strips away its defenses, handing you the keys without even realizing it. History is filled with rulers and generals who understood this law. The most cunning leaders pretended incompetence, delaying the revelation of their true strength until the exact moment it mattered. Some kings acted as if they were mere figureheads, while their advisors pulled strings from the shadows. Generals feigned retreat, letting their enemies grow arrogant before striking with overwhelming force. Weakness, whether genuine or staged, simplified the battlefield and blinded the opponent. In the words of Machiavelli, a wise prince ought to adopt such a course that his citizens will always, in every sort and kind of circumstance, have need of the state and of him, and then they will always be faithful to him. If appearing weak makes others need you less, it also makes them careless, and in carelessness lies your opening. The brilliance of a weak appearance is not only that it lowers defenses, but that it frees you from constant performance. To always appear powerful is exhausting. To appear modest costs nothing. It allows you to save your resources, both material and psychological, for the moments that truly count. You can afford silence, restraint, and patience. And patience, to Machiavelli, is not passivity. It is the sharpening of the blade before the strike. Reason 2. Cheaper in political capital. In the theatre of power, every display of strength has a cost. To appear dominant requires endless expenditure. Not always of money, but of something even more precious: political capital. When you show the world your wealth, your influence, or your authority, you must constantly defend it. You must bribe allies with favors, silence critics with concessions, and intimidate rivals with demonstrations of force. Each gesture drains the reserves you could otherwise use to build real, lasting control. The man who insists on being seen as powerful is always paying for the performance. Machiavelli understood that those who burn their capital too quickly end up exposed. A prince who continually boasts of his power creates expectations he cannot maintain forever. The court grows accustomed to lavish generosity. The people demand endless victories. Allies demand rewards for their loyalty. Soon, his strength becomes a cage. What once made him admired now makes him vulnerable. If he slows even for a moment, his enemies pounce, his allies defect, and his subjects whisper betrayal. To live in constant display is to bleed political capital until nothing remains. But when you are underestimated, the opposite occurs. By appearing weak, you do not invite demands. No one pressures you to prove yourself. No one expects miracles from you, and no one suspects that you have resources hidden in reserve. This gives you the most valuable advantage of all, the ability to accumulate power silently, without having to spend it just to keep others satisfied. Political capital grows best in the shadows, while others squander theirs in the spotlight. Consider how many leaders have collapsed under the weight of appearances. They built palaces, staged parades, and boasted of their greatness, only to find themselves bankrupt, surrounded by enemies who had grown jealous of their grandeur. Meanwhile, the underestimated leader who spends sparingly, who does not flaunt wealth or force, preserves both the loyalty of his allies and the suspicion of his enemies. He can spend his resources only when it matters most, striking a decisive blow instead of wasting energy on endless spectacle. Machiavelli teaches that appearances are tools, not truths. To appear strong all the time is to waste strength. To appear weak is to store it. Think of political capital as a reservoir. The man who brags empties his reservoir drop by drop in public fountains, showing everyone his water supply. The man who hides keeps his reservoir full until the drought comes, and then, when everyone else is desperate, he alone controls the flow. The brilliance of being underestimated is that it lowers the cost of survival. You are not forced to buy loyalty with endless gifts. You are not compelled to intimidate enemies with constant military displays. You are not required to speak louder, shine brighter, or spend faster than your rivals. Instead, you cultivate silence, patience, and economy. 3 currencies that never devalue. And when you finally decide to spend, the impact is magnified because no one saw it coming. Reason 3, attracting the right allies. Power is not built in isolation. Every prince, every general, every ruler depends on alliances, whether with soldiers, advisors, or citizens. But not all allies are equal. Some are loyal because of conviction, others because of interest. And here lies the danger. When you appear too powerful, too wealthy, or too desirable, you invite the wrong kind of ally, the parasite who attaches himself to your glory only to drain it. Machiavelli knew that the quality of your allies matters more than their quantity, and that appearing weak can filter out those who come for the wrong reasons. When you flaunt strength, you attract opportunists. These are the men who bow to you while secretly plotting to use your power for their own ends. They will praise you in public, but only because they expect a share of your spoils. The moment your fortune fades, they vanish, or worse, they join your enemies. Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on mercenaries for this exact reason. They fight not for loyalty, but for payment, and their allegiance is as fragile as the coin you give them. Allies gained through displays of wealth or might are mercenaries in spirit, even if they wear the mask of friendship. Now imagine the opposite. You appear modest, even weak. Those who approach you in such a state come for different reasons. They see value in your character, your counsel, or your quiet resilience. They are not blinded by riches, nor intoxicated by spectacle. They come because they respect the essence of your being, not the illusions of your power. These allies, though fewer in number, are stronger in loyalty. They have nothing material to gain from you, which means their presence is itself a form of proof. History offers countless examples of this principle. Rulers who appeared too magnificent found themselves surrounded by flatterers, sycophants, thieves, and traitors. They mistook the crowd at their table for friendship, only to discover betrayal when the gold ran out. Meanwhile, those who lived with modest appearances often discovered the rarest kind of ally, one who would stand beside them even when victory seemed impossible. Machiavelli himself, serving in Florence, saw how quickly false allies abandoned those who lost power. He also saw that true alliances are forged not in times of glory, but in times of apparent weakness and losses. There is another advantage to being underestimated. It exposes the hidden intentions of others. When you project strength, everyone conceals their true face in fear of you. But when you project weakness, people reveal themselves. They think you are harmless, so they speak freely, expose their ambitions, and sometimes even underestimate the cost of betraying you. This allows you to see who is trustworthy and who is merely a vulture. Weakness, real or staged, becomes a test that separates genuine loyalty from opportunism. Thus, to appear weak is not to lose allies, but to choose them. It attracts those who are drawn to essence, not appearances. It filters out the opportunists who seek only glory. And it provides a mirror in which the true faces of men are reflected. In Machiavelli's language, the prince who wishes to endure must know the difference between those who follow him for necessity and those who follow him for love. Reason 4. Appreciation of control. The world worships expansion, more wealth, more armies, more recognition. But Machiavelli understood that true strength does not always come from having more. It comes from mastering what you already hold. To display constant power is to live in a state of endless hunger, always chasing the next conquest, always proving your might. But to appear weak, to remain underestimated, allows you to step away from this exhausting cycle and appreciate the subtler, more enduring form of power. Control. Control is the essence of sovereignty. It is not about how many lands you own, but how tightly you hold them. It is not about how many allies cheer your name, but how deeply you can rely on their loyalty. Those who flaunt greatness rarely enjoy control. They are prisoners of appearances, chained to the expectations of others. They cannot slow down. They cannot retreat. They cannot pause. The image of strength consumes them, forcing them to spend endlessly, of money, of soldiers, of energy, just to maintain the illusion. The underestimated man, by contrast, enjoys freedom. Because no one expects much from him, he controls the rhythm of his actions. He decides when to advance, when to delay, when to strike, and when to remain silent. He is not enslaved by appearances, he is master of timing. And timing, Machiavelli reminds us, is the true art of politics and war. Fortune, he wrote, is a woman, and it is necessary, if you wish to master her, to conquer her by force. Force here is not blind aggression, but calculated control. The ability to act only when the conditions favor you, to bend chance itself through patience and preparation. To appreciate control, one must resist the seduction of constant display. The general who shows his full strength invites countermeasures. The one who hides his reserves controls the tempo of the war. This way you move on your own terms, not on the terms imposed by appearances. History punishes those who seek glory without control. Empires collapsed under the weight of expansion they could not govern. Kings were betrayed by allies they had bought with spectacle but not secured with loyalty. Leaders exhausted themselves proving their might until there was nothing left to prove with. Meanwhile, the underestimated figure who valued control above display often outlasted them. He knew that power was not about appearing invincible, but about ensuring that no move he made could be undone. What is unseen cannot be attacked. The more quietly you move, the more absolute your grip becomes. The world does not resist what it cannot see, and by the time it awakens, your control is already unshakable. This is the paradox of weakness. It hides your strength so that your strength can mature undisturbed. The hidden crown of the underestimated Machiavelli never glorified appearances for their own sake. He knew that glory without substance is fragile, and that a prince who chases admiration often becomes a prisoner of it. The lesson across these 5 reasons is clear. To be underestimated is not a curse. It is a crown disguised in shadow. By appearing weak, you simplify the battlefield. You avoid wasting energy on the endless defense of image. You save political capital instead of bleeding it out in constant performances. You attract the rarest of allies, those who see you for who you are, not for what you flaunt. You shield yourself from the daggers of envy, from the conspiracies that circle the obvious strong. You learn to value control over chaos, to preserve the freedom to act when you choose, not when appearances demand it. And finally, you secure strategic liberty. The art of waiting, of hiding, of striking with precision when all others are exposed. The underestimated man, then, is not powerless. He is patient. He is dangerous. He is the one who walks unnoticed through the corridors of power until the day his hand closes around the lever of destiny. By the time others realize their mistake, it is too late. They mocked what they thought was weakness, only to discover that it was armor. They dismissed the quiet figure, only to find him ruling from the shadows. This is the paradox that Machiavelli offers us. To appear less is often to gain more. To surrender the theater of appearances is to seize control of the stage itself. And while others waste themselves in spectacle, you preserve yourself for substance. In a world obsessed with showing strength, those who master the art of being underestimated write the script of history. So the choice is yours. Do you demand the crowd's applause now, burning your strength to keep their eyes on you? Or do you step back into silence, let them laugh, let them doubt, let them underestimate, until the moment you rise, not for applause, but for power itself? Because in the end, those who are underestimated are not the weakest. They are the ones no one saw coming, and therefore the ones no one can stop.